English translation 388th. Contact. Thursday, 12th May, 2005, 23:18 hours.
Oh, hello, Pta, you are already here. Welcome and be greeted. Outside there was something to do, together with Silvano. The fairy tale pond was clean today, so I had to light Silvano with the hand lamp so he could roll up the water hose.
Salome, Edward. I was just watching your work, which is why I came into your workroom just a minute before you.
Oh, well, then you did not have to wait long for me. But to get straight to a thing that is once again typical for me being accused of swindle, lying and cheating and forgery of photo material, but then stealing my photo material anyway, I want to show you something.
Thieves, antagonists, know-it-alls and slanderers, as well as unfair critics, only want to rise above others and place themselves above others because they are small and null and void, which is why they try to exalt themselves by lying, cheating, thieving, and slandering, and want to appear more than they really are.
That is probably true, but I wanted to talk about something else or show you something. See here on the computer this picture with the stamps. As you can see, apparently the Turkmen State Post Office stole 3 of my beamship pictures and used them to produce stamps in 1999.
The photos were indeed stolen from you, and you were not asked for permission. I do not know these stamps, and they do not belong to Turkmenistan, because they were certainly not produced there and were never sold there. I do not know where they were manufactured or what they were meant for.
Note Billy. Christian Freener was able to clarify by a query to the FIGU, member S. Baxter in U.S. America, that the stamps were produced in the USA and brought into trade at a UFO Congress, of course without permission and by theft of the photos.
I know this because I myself am a great philatelist and have owned all postage stamps of all earthly states since such stamps have existed at all. So I also own all postage stamps, as well as all stamps that have ever been used privately and by transport companies, etc.
The pictures were simply stolen from me, as many others around the world do. In the USA, film companies have stolen my pictures and used them in films, as well as the name of your home planet Era. All around the world, the same thing happens through other film producers, newspapers and magazines, advertising companies, and so on. Also liars, swindlers and cheats concerning alleged contacts with you or any invented extraterrestrials steal my photo material. The texts of our contact reports as well as the writings and books like the Sparrowhawks, in order to present everything as their own material. None of the thieves have a guilty conscience about this, because the only thing that is important for them is that they spread their tall tales about their alleged contacts and thus create a satisfaction for their feelings of inferiority, create a false image for themselves and profit from the whole thing.
Yes, unfortunately, this is true. But it must be said that all those human beings who act in this wise are abnormal and ill in their thinking, as well as in their feelings and in their actions. Some of them are deliberate deceivers, while others suffer from forms of schizophrenia, thus succumbing to delusions that make them believe that everything is real with regard to their claims that they have personal, telepathic, or alleged channeling contact with extraterrestrials. Spirits, demons, with Jesus Christ, with God or Satan, with spiritual beings, or with the dead, etc., and that the stolen material is their own property.
A well-known fact. But tell me, Ptah, what do you think about this? In Berlin, a so-called Holocaust memorial was built, consisting of a mass of concrete blocks of different sizes, the size of about a football field, or 3 of them, a real concrete desert. Of course, the nonsensical and unsightly work was praised to the skies by supporters, while others who were against it naturally protested against the nonsense. In my opinion, the whole thing is not only sheer nonsense and a blight on the cityscape, but also a waste of money and an abuse of land. This, in addition to the fact that the whole thing looks horrible and also promotes neo-Nazism. Do you know this stupid work? Those responsible for and followers of such commemoration ceremonies and memorials, etc., are psychologically so incompetent that they are not able to recognize how irresponsibly they act, and thus conjure up terror in general, as well as left and right extremism and neo-Nazism. With such memorials and commemorative ceremonies, as well as with posters, radio and television broadcasts, with books, speeches, and lectures of the same kind, hatred and imitation frenzy is endlessly encouraged, instead of everything being forgotten and a better future being created from the lessons learned. Constant remembrance of negative things of the past does not promote a change in man for the better, nor a more positive future. For in fact, such memories revive and rekindle old accumulated anger and hatred. But that is not all, for this hatred and anger is also transmitted to the new generations, thus causing everything to smolder and new discord, terror and murder, and new torture, destruction, and annihilation. And all this only as a result of the low intelligentum and dim-wittedness of all those who invent and advocate all this nonsense and have no knowledge of the human psyche, consciousness, and the thoughts, feelings, and reactions from it. Not infrequently, so-called learned psychologists are involved, who boast that they understand the psyche, the thinking, feeling, and acting of the human being, although they are absolute zeros in terms of psychology.
You take my own explanation out of my mouth. The work is an absurdity that actually promotes neo-Nazism and other right-wing extremism, as is always the case with all remembrance ceremonies concerning the Holocaust and war and bloody revolutions. This also brings me straight away to an event that is taking place in Uzbekistan, and that will expand in the next few days to such an extent that many human beings will be shot dead by the military security forces during a mass demonstration against the corrupt and murderous ruler Islam Karimov. Of course, the real number of those murdered by the military is mentioned in a smaller number than will be true. The shooting into the demonstrating crowd will be wild and merciless by the military forces, which will claim about 800 lives. At the same time, a scandal will be circulating around the world regarding the U.S. prisoner terrorist activities at the Guantanamo detention center. The psychological and physical torture of Muslim prisoners continues unabated in this camp, but this is officially denied by the U.S. military and the U.S. government through lies. This scandal is also based on psychological torture, in the form that a book of faith, a copy of the Quran, which is sacred to them, was torn in front of the prisoners, trampled on it, urinated on, and then torn to pieces by dogs and thrown into a toilet and then flushed down, humiliating the prisoners in their Muslim faith. The American newspaper Newsweek is informed about this, which publishes the story, making it known worldwide and causing a storm of protest in the Islamic world, which also claims a large number of lives, especially in Afghanistan. In the Islamic world, the events in Guantanamo will be an outcry, and also the hatred against the USA will flare up again and be further promoted. And when the U.S. government becomes aware of this fact, it will only recognize the mistake it has made, in which it is itself involved, because it knew about what was happening and also approved the deliberate article in the newspaper Newsweek. The late recognition of the wrongdoing then leads to the fact that the shameful incidents in Guantanamo are denied by lies of the U.S. government, just as the article of the Newsweek is presented as untrue and the informant as unreliable. Under pressure from the U.S. government, the newspaper is forced to present its deliberate article as untrue and to distance itself from the informant in such a way that he is no longer sure of his story, etc. even that the event really happened. Furthermore, the U.S. government will presume to deny the mentioned incident in Guantanamo by lying. Although our observations and clarifications have clearly and without any doubt shown that the events with the psychological torture regarding the defiled Quran correspond to the real truth. The lying denial of the U.S. government can be found in the reason that they know that this psychological torture has gone too far, and that a lot of evil can result for U.S. America. That is why a damage limitation is supposed to be achieved by the lying denial. But this will be useless, because the new wave of hatred against the USA will have bad consequences, which will carry far into the future. In Iraq, too, this new act of torture by the U.S. military at Guantanamo will increase the hatred against the Americans, leading to new deadly attacks not only in Iraq and Afghanistan, but everywhere in the world where the U.S. has settled down to slowly subdue the whole world. Furthermore, while these things are happening, a heavy weather front is moving from the Atlantic to Central Europe, bringing heavy snowfall in Spain in mid-May, after which there will be a drought in the country. The same thing will happen later in the Andes, where heavy snowstorms will claim a greater number of lives. In China, where unusually heavy snowfalls occur in mid-May, bird flu will also be a cause for concern. In Israel, the political-military situation will change again during the next week, with the result that military attacks will be carried out on land and air raids will again be flown against Palestine.
A question in between. What about the fact that the bird plague can be transmitted to humans, as you have repeatedly told me?
This is indeed the case, but earthly scientists still believe, wrongly, that this is not the case.
Some voices have been raised, however, that it might be possible.
This is probably true, but it has still not been recognized that the epidemic has already broken through the human barrier, but has not yet mutated and is not yet transmissible from person to person.
Actually, the evidence is there, because in several countries, large numbers of humans have already been infected directly by the virus and have died from it.
That will continue to be the case.
Apparently, the matter is not being taken seriously enough.
That is indeed the case.
Then it could eventually get very badly out of control into an epidemic or pandemic that could possibly take on worldwide proportions.
This fear is justified if the real seriousness of the matter is not finally recognized and action is taken quickly to contain and stop everything.
You mean through the scientific research into appropriate medication and effective safety measures, if I understand you correctly, right? But I think that those responsible are too lax, so that the catastrophe might take its course after all.
That is to be feared if reason does not finally break through.
One can only wait and see.
That will unfortunately be no different. But now we should turn to other things that are important and that I have to discuss with you. And Jana will give you further predictions next week, because she will supervise the correction work on Thursday, because I will be not available.
Also nice to see the girl again? Then let us get to work.
We will probably need 2 hours.
Then let us get started.